this year began with two words that rhymed, Omicron and Lacson. While the official campaign period for this presidential election does not begin for another 2 weeks, the peak of the Omicron-induced surge of COVID-19 could occur at any time, according to a prominent research firm that is good at such projections. Because this presidential election is out of the ordinary given the circumstances, campaigning in the new normal is indeed different and complicated. It's difficult to say how our candidates stood out at this time. As a result, we must neatly organize them in a simple management tool known as a SWOT analysis. With a 2x2 grid like this, you can quickly create a SWOT analysis. Do this 6 times and you'll get a SWOT analysis for each presidential candidate that you've heard on traditional and social media. Before we begin, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell to be notified of new content from our... We'll start with Leody De Guzman. The 62-year-old labor rights activist and unionist have a sizable left-wing following, particularly on social media. He has campaigned for a nationally elected position before in the Senate, finishing 38 out of 62 candidates in 2019. His campaign's obvious weakness is a lack of name recognition as a result of no political ads on traditional platforms and no geographical ethnic bastions to support. When he is invited to the presidential debates, he'll demonstrate his seriousness about having a serious presidential candidate to represent an ideology, and will be ready to attack other opponents' stances on their involvements throughout this outgoing presidency. Because of his ties to militancy, he will face threats from supporters of the National Task Force Ending Local Communist Armed Conflict or NTF-LCAP, which he vows to abolish if elected. Senator Panfilo Lacson is the oldest of the 6 candidates, and he has experience running a presidential campaign. In 2004, where he finished 3rd. In an attempt to learn the hard lesson while maintaining his half-century public service record, he has used online advertising ahead of everyone else last July. His weakness is that he could lose again and finish worse than he did 18 years ago. He won his home province of Cavite in his first election, but he may not win again this time. He has taken advantage of using Eat Bulaga airtime, where his running mate, Senate President Tito Soto, is a longtime host. He also used technology to create an online kamustahan to garner support while keeping safe from the virus, as was recently tested positive earlier this month. Right now, I have no idea what opportunities he has yet to pursue. The surviving relatives of the Duterte Corvito murder case, as well as the split Tagalog votes between him, Marcos, Moreno, and Robredo, are likely threats to his campaign. Former Senator Bongbong Marcos, who is currently polling as the frontrunner in the pre-campaign polls, filed an electoral protest in 2016 following his narrow defeat against Vice President Leni Robredo. The protest was dismissed last February due to the larger margin from the contentious provinces he picked, but it did not deter him from pursuing the highest office. His support base is, without a doubt, notoriously diverse. With the support of living former presidents except Fidel B. Ramos, youths with short attention spans, bulwarks in North Luzon and Eastern Visayas, loyal Manila Standard readers, most AM radio commentators, and other blocks with minimal educational background or hailing from non-elite universities, Senator Amy, his sister, joins the list of supporters and endorsement power. Celebrity-wise, the Gonzaga sisters and Don Zulueta are among them. His flaws, such as credential issues, using his father's image as his own, and taking credit for the Bangoy Woodmill project, have been highlighted by the critics. This is in addition to the no-show and Comelec hearing earlier this month. There are opportunities to bolster his campaign, such as the rise of the Philippine Collective Media Corporation, whose radio network FMR Philippines has expanded throughout 2021. Following disappointments with outgoing President Rodrigo Duterte, some constitutional reform advocates saw him as a getting things done person to meet their agenda. Seen as a friendlier candidate in Beijing's eyes, his eventual victory could mean China's ultimate ratification and downplaying of the Permanent Court of Arbitration ruling, continuing Duterte's foreign policy initiatives. 2 religious denominations, 1 veteran and 1 rising, that practice command voting would likely endorse him. The descendants of his father's martial rule victims, the editorial staff of prominent college student publications and corresponding student councils, and the 4-way split Tagalog-speaking voters are his campaign's threats. Kapampangan and Waray voters would split between him and Robredo. For the past 2.5 years, Manila Mayor Isko Moreno of Acción Democrático has demonstrated political will in his city, and he is poised to replicate those efforts nationally. Being the second youngest candidate on the ballot can appeal to the target voters, and having worked in a show business before entering politics can help him gain support from the still undecided Class D and E voters. His weakness is straightforward. He's far too eager to jump from the position of chief executive of the capital city to the highest office in the country. To capitalize on name recall, he has a biopic set to premiere this Wednesday, January 26, to avoid the technicality of the campaign period ban on such films portraying candidates or being the lead actor in any film. However, because of the Omicron surge, his potential leverage could be squandered. Despite that, with Dr. Willie Ong as his running mate, they have the gains to propel undecided social media savvy voters. The threats he'll have to deal with are 1. Ad hominem thumbs of the last loyal Duterte supporters, and 2. The split Tagalog voters except on his bulwark. Senator Manny Pacquiao is the election's youngest participant and the most popular personality, owing to his long career as a professional boxer before retiring last August. Pacquiao, like Moreno, could use his rags to riches story to inspire and convince undecided voters. His weakness is his record of Senate absenteeism due to his real day job. While he may gain significant vote shares in his turf of Sarangani and General Santos City, the rest of Sorsogen is doubtful. His former longtime friend in the ring, Chavit Singson, parted ways with him and called him unqualified to be president. With Dito Atienza as his running mate, his campaign could project a traditional socially conservative image. As far as we're concerned, his campaign poses a threat to the LGBT community. Many people will never forget his senatorial campaign soundbite from 2016 when he said that same-sex marriage is mas masahol pa sa hayop, worse than animals. Last but not the least, Vice President Leni Robredo is the presidential race's sole female candidate. Like Marcos, her deep rival in 2016, she also has a diverse set of supporters. She is considered a market-friendly candidate according to a renowned Japanese-based economic think tank, as she does have a plan for the economic recovery from the pandemic. She has the most renowned celebrity endorsement backing, mostly from Mother Ignacia, pinning their hopes on her for granting a new broadcast license, restoring the network's core operation. Another block of support comes from prominent columnists from newspapers and social media news sites who are generally critical of the Duterte administration, such as Richard Hidarian, Winnie Monsod, and JC Punong Bayan, as well as a few radio personalities such as Percy Lapid and attorney Mel Santamaria. As she has bailiwicks in Bicolandia and Western Visayas, she's all ears on a data-driven approach to policies and well-versed in both traditional and new media. She's regarded as a restorer of international relations with Western countries, as evidenced by courtesy calls from ambassadors to her office. Her initial political ad style, which was later improved, was her weakness. Because she's a high-profile victim of political disinformation, her sincere strategy, the radical na pagmamahal approach, would be difficult to translate and reclaim the already endorsed lot. With her youngest daughter Jillian studying in the United States, she can woo overseas voters, particularly those who have yet to atone on their choices in the previous election. Human rights activists and advocates for harm reduction would view her more favorably if she used the lessons learned over the last 6 years to push for the necessary legislation. Hardcore columnists from non-mainstream broadsheets, particularly one from the Manila Times, pose a threat. Because of her meeting with the task force last November, pro-abolition advocates of the NTF-LCAC had turned against her. She was initially for abolition, but she remained adamant that the task force should neither harass nor red tag those insuspicious any further. With Senator Kiko Pangilinan as her running mate, she will face criticism from the growing constitutional reformists due to his inaction on the relevant committee which he chairs. Furthermore, her campaign is feared to be seen as a quasi-return to the days of the early 2010s. Her potential administration will be viewed as a quote-unquote globalist by on-the-ground National Democrats, not Dems, and online nativists. On the fear of ethnic vote splintering, the Tagalogs, Kapampangans, and Morais could make or break her numbers. Is there anything I've left out? If you disagree and you want to share your SWOT analysis of any of the presidentiables, please leave a comment and I hope to see you in the next video.